Alright, yeah! Thank God for fantasy football. I'm Buster Brown, and the show is called Redemption Rehab. Today, we're taking a look at those impact players to pick up on your waiver wire. So buckle up, get out your popcorn, and let's head over to the chalkboard
and check out the facts.
Okay, here we are on our last show this year in 2025 of the weekly waiver wire report, heading into your league's playoffs that usually start in week 15. Well, we need to know who we're picking up in week 14 on the waiver wire, starting with this guy. If you need a good player, I'll tell you what, at running back, I'd be looking at Blake Corum of the Los Angeles Rams. Blake Corum had 7 carries for 81 yards with a touchdown. He had no receptions. I'd be careful with that, but if you have Kyrie Williams on your team, you need Blake Corum. He's the handcuff. We've been telling you that all year. There's a chance Kyrie Williams plays this week, so be careful with that. A guy on bye that we really like is this guy, Devin Singletary of the New York Giants. He's only owned in 35% of fantasy football leagues, but when Tyrone Tracy got carted off the field, who is the starter, Devin Singletary picked up the slack. He had 12 carries for 68 yards with 1 touchdown, and he also caught 3 balls for 34 yards. Now, he's on bye this week, so you got to be careful with that, but we think he's a guy you want to go out and get for your playoff run and that starts in a couple weeks. His handcuff is a guy named Eric Gray. I'll tell you what, here's some more running backs you need to get on your team if you can. How about Zonovan Knight of the Arizona Cardinals? He's the handcuff to Trey Benson, but Trey Benson's been on IR all year. He's coming back probably next week, but if he doesn't, Zonovan Knight's the guy you want to have. Last week, Zonovan Knight had 11 carries for 62 yards. Caught 3 balls for 36 yards and had a touchdown reception. We also like this running back. How about Chris Rodriguez of the Washington Commanders? Last week he had 11 carries for 41 yards with a touchdown. And we also like these guys as sleeper picks, starting with this guy. We like Keaton Mitchell of the Baltimore Ravens. He's the handcuff to Derrick Henry. And we also like Malik Davis. He's the handcuff down there in Dallas to Javonte Williams. Make sure you go get those guys, stick them on your bench. You might need them for your playoff run. Hey, you need yourself some wide receivers? Well, we got some for you this week. How about this guy, Jaden Higgins of the Houston Texans? He's only owned in 37% of fantasy football leagues. I'll tell you right now, man, he had 5 catches for 65 yards on a whopping 10 targets. Who else do we like at wide receiver? You got to get this guy on your team if he's on your waiver wire. How about Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? He hasn't done much all year because he's been hurt, but he's coming off of IR. And Jaden Reed of the Green Bay Packers, he also hasn't done much all year. He's coming off of IR. If they're on your waiver wire, go pick them up, put them on your bench until they're ready to play. We also like wide receiver Adonal Mitchell of the New York Jets. He used to play for the Colts. Last week, Adonal Mitchell had 8 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown on a whopping 12 targets in replace of the injured Garrett Wilson, who isn't even available to come back until week 15. And I'll tell you right now, you got to go out and get yourself some Kayshon Boutte. We talked about him, a wide receiver from New England. He's still only owned in 25% of fantasy football leagues. Next week, he's on bye. But last week on Monday night against the Giants, he had 4 catches for 35 yards with a touchdown on 5 targets. Now, a lot of these guys might not be available in any of these leagues that you're in, but I'll tell you what, here's some sleeper picks that we like going into week 14 that might help you win heading into the playoffs, starting with this guy. How about Isaac Tesla of the Detroit Lions? He's only owned in 5% of fantasy football leagues. Last week, he only had 2 catches for 35 yards, filling in for the injured Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown plays on Thursday. Chances of him playing aren't very good, so look for Mr. Tesla to pick up the slack. Who else do we like as a sleeper pick? We like this guy. I'll tell you what, Devon Vele of the New Orleans Saints. He's only owned in 2% of fantasy football leagues. He got traded by Denver to New Orleans earlier this year. He's 6'5". Last week, he had 8 catches for 93 yards with a touchdown on 8 targets. This week, they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I wouldn't be surprised if this kid had another big game this week against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who else do we like at sleeper picks at wide receiver? We like these guys. How about Luther Burden of the Chicago Bears? He's only owned in 15% of fantasy football leagues. Last week, he had 4 catches for 33 yards on 6 targets. And we also like Dontavian Wicks with the Green Bay Packers. As long as Jaden Reed's out, this kid might do well. He had 6 catches for 94 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 rush for 6 yards. And we also like Darius Slayton. He played on Monday night. He managed to score a touchdown. So I tell you what, any of these guys are people I could consider picking up, putting on my bench in case you have a need and your chance to win a championship this year. Who else do we like? Well, if you need yourself a tight end, we got some for you. How about these guys? We've talked about this guy last 2 weeks. He's had big games. Brenton Strange of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had 3 catches for 45 yards with a touchdown on 6 targets. We told you last week Darren Waller was coming off of IR. He came back. He didn't play a lot, but he did manage to have 2 catches for 47 yards on 3 targets. And we also like this guy, Isaiah Likely of the Baltimore Ravens. He had a whopping 5 catches for 95 yards on 6 targets. And a guy we've been talking about all year, A.J. Barner of the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, they were blowing out the Minnesota Vikings, so they didn't have to pass a lot. But when they did, this is who they threw the ball to. Last week, he had 4 catches for 35 yards on 5 targets. And we told you for a while now that the Rams like to throw the ball to the tight ends. Who do they like to throw to since Tyler Higbee got hurt? It's this guy. How about Colby Parkinson of the Los Angeles Rams? He's only owned in 5% of fantasy football leagues. Last week, how about 4 catches for 27 yards on 5 targets? And we keep telling you, last couple weeks, hey man, go out and pick up Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears. Everybody thinks the rookie Loveland's the guy to have. Could be Cole Kmet, the veteran's playing well. Last week, he had 3 catches for 36 yards and a touchdown. We keep telling you about the rookie Gunnar Helm down there in Tennessee. He had 6 catches for 23 yards. And hey, I would check to see if Evan Ingram's on your waiver wire. He hasn't done anything all year. Last week, he showed up, and Denver looked like a team to beat in the AFC, partly because of Evan Ingram. Who else do we like? How about this quarterback? Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers. He's only owned in 20% of fantasy football leagues. He's on bye in week 14, so you won't have him available. Last week, he had 15 completions on 20 attempts for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tell you what, I really like him. I think you could put him on your bench. Maybe he'll help you in the playoffs. We also know Justin Herbert got hurt. He had hand surgery on his left hand. That's his non-throwing hand. Might play this week, but I doubt it. I think the guy you want to go out and pick up, if he's not available, is Trey Lance. Other guys we like that might fill in this week at quarterback is Shedeur Sanders for the Cleveland Browns. We still like Tyler Schaff down there in New Orleans. And don't forget about Tyrod Taylor for the New York Jets. I could see him having a decent week this week too. And I'll tell you what, it's time to start getting defenses for your playoffs. If you need a good defense as a backup or maybe just to play this week, how about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? This week they play New Orleans, and next week they play Atlanta, and then they play Carolina. If you need a defense for just week 14, we also like the Washington Commanders. They play the Minnesota Vikings, then the New York Giants. And we also like the Tennessee Titans this week against Cleveland. And if you need yourself a kicker, how about Riley Patterson of the Miami Dolphins? Last week, he was 4 for 4 on field goal kicking. And I'll tell you what, he looks like he's going to be a strong end to the season. Go out and get yourself some Riley Patterson down there in Miami. Well, I'll tell you what, that's it for the season. That's it for the week 14 waiver wire report. So I tell you what, have yourself a good holiday. We'll see you next year. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and you will get a chance to see our NFL draft preview shows, which we're starting to put together as we speak for those impact players heading into the NFL draft next year in April. I'm Buster Brown. The show is called Redemption Rehab. Good luck.